welcome to another edition of the Guide Roundtable. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson, and I'm here with Pro Staff Guide Cray Lutz and Josh Gruby. And yeah, we got a big response to the questions last week, and so we're going to do that again tonight. But first off, we're going to talk about the fishing. So Josh, I know you've been out this week. It's been a little cold, but pretty fishy, huh?
It is. It always is this time of year. I mean, there's times of the day when you might not catch as many fish as you're used to, but there's always a rush. You know, we still have hatches going this time of year, so the fish are always in the feed, and that's what's special about the fishery here. Here and over in the Bighorn is there's always a lot of food. So the fish don't stop eating just because it's wintertime. You know, we got open water, we're floating it and fishing it hard.
Yeah, for sure. I was out yesterday, and you know, we just floated a couple holes, and no, it was really good.
That's all it takes, right?
Yeah. You know, a lot of the red worm, a lot of leech patterns, you know, those have been working really good. And, you know, it's only at 450 CFS, so you don't need that big, you know, long leader. We were fishing pretty short. I think we were only about 5 to the weight, and that was working pretty good. Crayfish, you've been, man, you've been guiding. You've been to the Bighorn, you've been to the Reef. What's up, man? Talk to us.
Everything's great.
Yeah.
The weather's been cold, but like Josh said, you know, when you come in February, it's going to be chilly. You know, shouldn't scare you away. The fishing's been amazing. Almost, you know, it seemed like last week, the nastier the day, the better the fishing was.
Yeah.
You know, we had a day over on the Bighorn where, for the first time I've ever nymphed over there anyways, I caught probably twice as many browns as we caught rainbows.
Yeah.
You know, and then the next day...
You had to talk him into that one a bit.
I did, you know, but it was...
It was a high of 16?
High of 16 and snowy,
but the reward was there for sure, right?
It was insane. And then the next day was sunny and clear, and I think we caught 2 browns, and everything else was rainbows. It was pretty weird how it just went, you know, just switched overnight. But amazing fishing right now. You know, it is a great time to be here.
So what about the Reef? You've been up there a bit?
Yeah, been up on the Reef. Fishing great, you know, it always is, but rockworms, leeches, like you said, there are some midges hatching. It's kind of weird because I feel like it's been a little calmer, you know, wind-wise than it has been in past years, and it's pretty neat to see those really slow sections with fish rising. You know, it kind of tempts you. I know we don't do it a lot, just, you know, those fish are eating a size 26 midge, and it's a little hard for the client.
And you also realize you have to fish less weight all of a sudden. Like, you can't fish the AB weight with all the chop on the water from the winds. All of a sudden it's calm, and you got to fish short leaders and light weights. So
but no, everything's fishing great, man. We got a little cold snap here right now, gonna last through the weekend, but right back at it. So
well, it's most of you know that it's snowing in Denver, so it might be a good weekend to hit the Reef because it's going to be a ghost town. So, all right, guys. Well, let's get to the questions. Cray, Josh,
do you want me to go first? All right.
Yeah.
Let me pull it back up now. I got a question from Michael Taffel. It's a long question, basically about the changing flows in the river. In summertime, we're going to see more flows coming out of the reservoirs. So yes, you do have to change your strategies, and that's basically his roundabout question. Is he's used to fishing 500 CFS, our minimum flows, and instead he's asking, you know, what adjustments do I make in the summertime? So it's a great question because we do see a lot of the people struggle, whether they're in the boats or they're wade fishing. We see these people standing in places where we know they're just, you know, really not being productive. There's no fish there. The way I think about it in a really broad spectrum is fish don't want to work harder than they have to eat. And that's all they really do is eat. You know, they spawn for a month and a half, but other than that, they eat. So you really need to say, well, there's one run I was fishing really hard at 500 CFS, and it was the middle of the river, and all of a sudden now that's moving 6-7 times faster, and where's that fish going to move? He still wants to be near that heavy water because that's where the food is traveling thickest, right? But he wants those edges. He wants those edges where he can move in and out, he can feed or he can rest, feed or he can rest. I mean, you're even going to find fish in the back eddies that time of year. So you really got to pay attention to what the landscape is doing for those fish. One instance is inside corners. Okay, so if a run is going around a bend, then all the momentum and pressure of the current is going to that outside of the bend, right? Which leaves that inside piece a little blocked from all the heavy current. And that gives those fish just that little bit of reprieve, gives them that little zone where they can rest, but there's still enough current that there's food traveling, right? So they're like, well, I could be here, I can rest, I can eat, I don't have to.
They want a booth right close to the buffet.
There you go. They want to be close, but not right in it, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, other than that, and that's a wade fishing technique, because you really can't obviously go out in the middle of the river anymore because the river's big. So you got to just be a little more creative and start paying attention to side channels, right?
Yeah.
We get down, some of the water we love is down below Government Bridge, down below the reef, where everything starts grading out a little bit and gives you some more options of little pieces of holding water to fish. And then the last option, which I'm obviously pretty biased towards, is getting the boat and start throwing back towards the bank. A lot of those big fish really try to find some really sneaky little spots to sit by themselves. They're not in those big groups on the corners, right? They're hanging out in their own spot, and they're willing to take that one big meal because they're not feed.
Yep.
They're waiting for one big meal to pass by, and that's that's a good time for those streamers,
Yeah,
to hit
for
the
sure.
banks, or even just mini rig some big bugs and them towards the bank even. So that's my thought. So I hope that helps.
Perfect. Crayfish, you got a question?
Yeah, let me find it. So my question's from Tim Brown this week. Tim says, I moved here from Atlanta 10 years ago and started tying my own flies shortly thereafter. I have had decent success with multiple sized flies on the river, but don't have consistent success. What do you think is the best size hook for tying leeches and streamers for gray reef and the mile? Well, Tim, as far as leeches go, I can't speak for all the guides or everyone that fishes, but I don't tie a leech on anything other than a size 8 natural bend hook. I like big hooks, and the glory of our fishery is we don't have to fish small. We don't have to get real technical. So every leech that I fish is on a size 8. Streamers, same game. We're fishing. Josh and I love to throw the big stuff. Ryan does too. A lot of size 2s, 4s.
Yeah.
In our buggers and our articulated stuff. As far as the main bugs that you're going to be tying, to nymph the river, like rockworms, most of what we fish there are 12s, 14s, and sometimes 16s. It's stay big. We rarely fish anything smaller than a 16. Even in our midges, our PMDs, our betas, a 16 is about as small as we go. So
we used to fish 20s. No more, right?
No more.
No. We were stupid back then.
Yeah, I think we've upped the tippet size in the last 5 years. I think you're fishing 2x to your leech, aren't you? And we're not going any smaller, and these fish are still grabbing those bugs. So well, thank you, Cray. Brett Merritt writes in. Do you guys ever drink any real beer besides Coors Light? To answer your question, Brett, if you guys box it up and ship it to us, we will show it on the air. Our address here at the Fly Shop is 7400 Alcova Highway 220. So you just send them on up, and we'll drink them on the air.
You can send whiskey too.
Yeah, yep. But I think that about wraps up this week's Guide Roundtable. I hope we answered all of your questions. Please keep them coming because it gives us something to talk about. And we'll see you next week.